Okay, if you are here for the 4 steps of how to create a healthier relationship, go ahead and take out a piece of paper, a pen, get yourself nice and cozy and ready to roll. And nobody's here at this time to be in this space, so if you comment on this, I will absolutely get back to you and comment on it as well. And we'll answer any questions then. So here we go. This class is for people that are looking for better friendships, better relationships with your parents, your significant others, anything of that manner. Anywhere in your life where you've feel like your relationship with that person has kind of taken a turn or has always kind of had an imbalance to it, and you feel like you're always being shut down or feel like you can't be full authentic self around them, then this is the class for you. So this is a disclaimer first before we start. There's only so much that you can do in the one way. So if this person that you're working to have a better relationship with are not receiving the boundary setting and the conversations that you are giving them, and they need more time. First off, they may need more time to integrate, which is fine. But if it seems like it's just not getting through to them at all, it may be a sign to dissolve that relationship, or to at least distance yourself from that person a bit more. If they can't take all of you, then they don't deserve some of you. Hey! But at the end of the day, that's up to you, and that's going to be your journey. And if that's something that you feel like you need guidance with and want to continue on a deeper level, I'm a coach, and that's part of the mindful fulfillment experience that you get, is working to better your life and be more mindful in day-to-day life of relationships with yourself and others. So, are you ready? Are you ready for this? We're gonna do step 1. Here we go. Okay. Step 1. This may come to a surprise for some of you. Step 1 is look inward. Step 1 is look inward. A lot of us think it's everybody else around us that's the problem. And even though those people have their own things that are issues that come up in our life, at the end of the day, there's something within us that we haven't worked to heal or recognize about ourselves that is showing up to the relationship. Whether that be to guard yourself from what they're saying and get all angry and snippy at them, or to handle something that they're doing to you because you feel like you're not worthy of anything else. These are all inward things that you have to look at first before going to them. So for example, if you were in a restaurant or you go to a coffee shop and you're in a really great mood, you've had the best day, let's say, right? But then you get into this coffee shop and the restaurant, and you go and have the server come up to you, and they're in the worst mood ever. No matter, they're hiding it, they may be, faking a smile and everything, but you can absolutely tell that they're not in a good mood. Because we're intuitive beings, and we can feel that coming off of people. There is energy exchanges that we're having with people all the time. And so when you go into their space and they're feeling like crap, even if they're trying to mask it, it's gonna bleed onto you. And when you leave, it's going to take you a while to let go of that interaction between you guys, because you were in their space and it felt icky and you didn't know what was going on. You just knew that they weren't in a good mood, and so you didn't know how to react, so it kind of made you in a not good mood because you felt like you needed to protect yourself, and there's this whole dynamic. So it's important to see how you are showing up energetically to a conversation, to your relationships. It's important to see where you can work on like recognizing what are your triggers, what are the things that you're insecure about, what are the things that like maybe amp you up because it was something that like someone said to you one time, so that word really bothers you now. These are things that you have to look inward to figure out, so that when you step into that space and start setting boundaries with those parents, that significant other, those friends, you can declare who you are to them so that it can be a healthier, safer environment for everybody involved. Because if you go in and just start setting boundaries with them, they're gonna be really confused and possibly pretty guarded because they don't know where it's coming from. It might take them by surprise, and they might get more snippy at you than if you are like, listen, something that I've recently noticed is that it really bothers me when you say this word. And so I've realized that this is because when I was growing up, that word was something that we used to get shamed for. And so when you use that word, it really brings that up within me. So while I'm working on that, if you don't mind actually maybe using that word a little less, that would be really helpful. See, that dynamic allows for the compassion of like, hey, I see that you use this. This is something you do that I don't really like, but this is why I don't really like it. It's because of this perception that I've checked in with myself and figured out. Okay? So that's step number 1, is to look inward. That also goes for if you're checking in with yourself in the mornings. And I highly advise, if you haven't gotten a morning routine of some sort, to check in with yourself. It's a game changer. It really is. It can make the world of a difference to your life, because then you get to check in with yourself, give yourself love before you step into the world. And if you just happen to be in a grouchy mood that day, it might be wise to go to your partner or your friend or something and be like, so just to warn you, I'm kind of in a grouchy mood today. I know that we got to do this work, but if you don't mind giving me some space today, that would be really helpful. It has nothing to do with you, and I'm sorry if I accidentally snap, but I'll try really hard not to. You know, like that's setting everybody else up for success. And that moves us up to part 2 of 4 ways to create a healthy relationship. Part 2 is to prepare. So after we've looked inward, after we've figured out what our triggers are, what's upsetting us, what we are doing that day, specifically how we're feeling that day, we need to prepare for the conversation. Because we all know somebody in our life that the conversation's gonna be a little bit heavier than just a casual, hey, I'm grouchy today, right? Either it's your parent. I know a lot of people, it's going to be your parent that we're feeling this way about. So I'm going to give an example. There was something that my mom didn't even know that she was doing that was really hurting me. And I was like really angry at her for a while and would get really snippy at her, and the relationship was just suffering because of that. And I wanted a good relationship with my mom because my mom is a beautiful being and I love her ever so much. But for me to figure out how to do that, I had to prepare to have that deep conversation with her. I did. And at first I was really, really angry and lashing out, and like, not at her, but just in general, and I was verbal processing it. And that's where you prepare. So I verbal processed with somebody that I could trust, would just listen and not try to fix the situation. That's really important. If you're a verbal processor, you need to find somebody that you can talk to about this that isn't going to try to fix the situation for you. Because it's not up to them to fix it. It is up to you to find out where your boundaries are. They're just a soundboard, and make sure they know that. If you do not have somebody like that in your life that you can do this with, then another way to prepare is to talk in the mirror and verbal process, or to journal a dialogue with your idea. That way, you get off your chest the initial emotion that you're feeling, which could be anger, hurt, all these really charged emotions. You get them out first before you ever talk to the person. Because if you come into a space with those charged emotions, what happens to you when somebody comes up to you all charged? Naturally, you want to either retreat and shut down and guard yourself, or you want to come and attack. So we don't want to do that if we're trying to heal a relationship with somebody, right? So the best way to prepare is to write it out, talk to people, whatever needs to be done. And then that's going to also help you get some grounding actions of what you want to say and how you want it to show up and what the ideal situation is, and lessen the nerves as well, because it can be really nerve-wracking to set boundaries with people. It really can. So this is like a step 3-4 situation. So this is why it was kind of an in-between when I was making this, is because there are times when you can prepare for a conversation, something that's been deeply rooted, something that has been bothering you for a very long time with this certain person. And then there's other times where in the moment, when it comes to maybe a stranger or a new friend, or even an old friend that maybe just like learned something new and they're coming to you talking about it, we can't always prepare. But what we can do is know how we're going to show up if that situation comes out of the blue. So something to recognize is that there's actually been scientific evidence, you can look this up, that if you place your hand on your heart and you breathe into your heart, it calms down your nervous system. I'm not saying this for people that are completely shut off and completely in fight or flight mode. You got to do a lot more than that. There's actually a bundle of nerves that you can push up on in your roof of your mouth and right here, and that will reactivate your prefrontal cortex. Because we can actually completely shut off this part of our brain. So it's important to recognize, am I in a space where I can just make this more prominent, or am I in a space where I can't at all? And that's going to be hard. If you're completely in fight or flight mode, then that's the sign. It's like, I can't even think right now. Yeah, that means you need to get your prefrontal cortex back online. But for people that are still in the space a little bit, it's important to right away take care of yourself. If somebody says something that triggers you, that bothers you really intensely, or something like that, take a moment to take 3 deep breaths while holding your heart. And obviously to keep yourself in a safe place. If this is somebody that's attacking you verbally, then walk away first and foremost, and then do this. But if it's a person that just you love ever so much and they just said the wrong thing that really, really got you, instead of lashing out verbally at them, take a moment. They're going to look at you kind of funny, but it's going to save you a bunch of trouble at the end when you actually are able to speak clearly to them about what just happened. So try to stick to compassionate dialogue. So breathe deeply in. Allow yourself to get into that heart space, in that love space. If you need to, speak to yourself and be like, that's not what they meant, or that's not really. It's more like telling yourself that you're gonna be okay, and like giving yourself that love. Then when you're ready, you can even, while you're doing this, be like, something came up when you said that. You can even say that if you need to, like allow for it not to be this quiet pause while you're checking in with yourself. And then you speak to them. And because you've checked in and you've given yourself that parasympathetic nervous system to like activate more and calm yourself down, you can think a lot more logically, and a lot calmer when you talk to them. So something that I usually go for if I'm talking to somebody that I know and have known for a long time and they just happen to say something that really has hurt me, is after I've checked in, I say, when you say blank, it makes me feel like blank. And I would rather you say blank. And that's it. It's important to give them a direction to go instead if you want to keep the relationship. Let's put that as a disclaimer. If this is a relationship that you want to continue, it's difficult to just be like, hey, you made me feel like this, and when you say this, and then just leave it. Because what that does to them is they go, oh, crap, well, I'm sorry. And the initial reaction when somebody really loves you and really cares about you and they hear you say that is their heart breaks a little and they feel really bad. And it causes them to, most people, it causes them at some point to want to fix it or make it better or something. So give them some slack, give them a tool. The only way that they're going to be able to know what to do next is if you help them out a little. And it's going to make it go a lot smoother. And if you don't know what the next step is, tell them that. Be honest, be vulnerable with this person. Say, like, when you say this, it makes me feel like this. Right now, I can't figure out why. And I just need some space to figure that out, and then I'll let you know how I would rather this conversation go or how I would rather show up to this space once I figure it out. But I just wanted you to know that that's what's going on. Done. You can choose to leave it there, and if you feel called to go deeper into reasoning behind the trigger or the pain point, that's up to you. You can also like gauge it on the person. If you know that they're a sensitive individual, then giving them some reasoning behind what you're saying is going to help with them being able to integrate a little bit better. Something that I say to people that I know are pretty sensitive, that are my friends or family, is I say, I know that you probably didn't mean it this way, but this is how I heard it, and it made me feel this way. I'm going to repeat that. I know you probably didn't mean it this way, but this is how I heard it, and this is how it made me feel. Okay? All important aspects to the situation. And if they're somebody that you don't care about and they're like a stranger that just showed up and just started talking to you like that, then you don't have to give them any reasoning. You can just leave it at, you just said that and it made me feel like this. I'd rather you not. Or walk away. You have the right to walk away, girl, guy, person. You have the right. They're a stranger, and they only have the availability to talk to you in that moment. It's not like they have your contact information. So if they're making you uncomfortable and they're saying things that hurt you, and you don't know if they mean it or not or whatever, it's a sticky situation, then you can say what you want to say and then say, I need space, and then walk away. That took me a long time to realize. But you don't owe them anything. You don't. All right. Number three step. Okay. Consistency. We live in a world that us humans, if we don't have consistency, we don't usually stick with the habit. So congratulations, you've gone to that person, you've set the boundary, you're feeling great, and you survived. You survived that conversation, and I am so proud of you for being so brave and having that conversation. Now you gotta do it again and again and again. Some people will get it right away, and that's awesome. Those people, bless. There's other people out there that have a more difficult time integrating these new boundaries that you've given them. And if it feels called, give them grace. It really probably depends on how long you've been continuing that habit with them, because we're all habitual human beings. So if you have been consistently having this back and forth situation with them for years, and then you all of a sudden come in, it's gonna feel kind of abrupt to the habit. So after you've made that like initial boundary talk, you don't have to repeat the boundary whole thing again, but it would be wise that if they bring it up again, if they don't catch themselves, then to be like, when they say it, be like, you remember how we were talking about? And then what will probably happen, right, is you'll just start to be like expressing, and then they'll catch themselves and be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, okay. I'm working on it. And then giving them compassion, because if they're working on it and they're trying, oh my gosh, they love you so much and they're trying, and they're really working on it. But if they're not working on it and they continue to do it after you've continued to mention it, you got to start listening to your intuition at that point. Because if if it feels like it's really not going anywhere, and at some point it's like, okay, at this point, like, it feels like at this point you should have gotten it and now you're just kind of ignoring me, you can either choose to have a more serious boundary conversation about respecting the choices and then asking them, is there something that you need to say, or, you know, like, have a conversation about that, or start to dissolve that. Because if they can't respect you after you've given them a really nice cushion to, like, learn your new way of being, then maybe they don't need to be a primary person in your life. I'm not saying get rid of them completely, but definitely check in on that. And that's hard to do, and I understand that. I've had to do that with a couple of my past friends, and it's not a good feeling, but we all grow and we all change, and if the people around us aren't growing and changing with us, then it's no hard feelings at the end of the day if you need to start distancing yourself from them. Because what's going to happen is, probably, who knows, because you'll be over here, but you'll be distancing yourself, and that allows them to start working on their stuff. And it not be like relying on you and like becoming this enabling situation. Because it won't help anybody involved. Nobody else will grow past that point if you continue to be like, oh, it's okay, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it, instead of like holding firm with that boundary that you worked so damn hard to figure out and express to them. It took a lot of effort. So if they can't understand that after a month or two of like seeing them and then almost blatantly ignoring it after you've been gentle about reminding them, then they're not caring. They don't care. So, and I'm not talking about people that are on the spectrum. I'm not talking about people that have some sort of mental disability. Like, that is a different situation. And if you want help with that, you need to go to some professional for that, because I'm not going to be able to give you that information. But I'm just talking about a day-to-day, what is it called? Neurotypical individual. So, I'm learning the terms all the time. All right, step 4. I feel like I should edit this and have that be a rainbow at the end. Step 4. Probably will. Step 4 is repeat. We are beautiful human beings. We are. And we are ever changing and growing. So your values, ideas, stresses are going to change throughout your life, and they're constantly going to need reflection from yourself and reflection in your relationships so that you can keep that intimate, vulnerable space with your relationships, because they can't read your mind. So if things are changing in your life and you don't keep them up to date, then you're gonna start holding on to like new unhealthy patterns. So it's just important to note that step 1 through 3 is something that can be constantly used and repeated over and over again and updated as you grow. And again, that is why mindfulness is so important. Because if we are mindful of ourselves and where we are that day, that week, that month, then we show up to people outside of ourselves in a much more compassionate, mindful way, which is going to help everybody involved, as I explained earlier. So, yeah, Yes, that's it. I say that's it, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work. And just know that you're not alone. Everybody's working on growing and changing and new ideas, new boundaries, new identities. We are ever fluid, changing beings. And as long as you know that stagnant ways of being is just not going to work. Things are constantly changing, and that's a good thing. That's exciting. That's part of being the human that we are, is getting to boop, 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 boop. That's enough of a description, right? Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate everyone for listening and coming to this space and saying yes to yourself and your relationships around you, because you absolutely deserve to have the most loving, compassionate relationship with yourself and others. Again, if you're looking for somebody that's going to coach you, that's going to be there for you and hold you in that highest accountability while you flow through it, contact me. And I hope you all have a beautiful day. I will see you soon.